Welcome back to beyoungministry.blogspot.com, to another podcast, to another blog of the book of Galatians. We are in the 6th chapter, the last chapter of the book. Galatians by far is my favorite book in the Bible. I trust that our study of it has been helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. Today, we are just in one verse, Galatians chapter 6, verse 1, which reads, "Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted." That's Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. We come to the Apostle Paul's description of the spiritual man. This was the desire of the Galatians, to be spiritual. Yet, like most Christians, they made spirituality about themselves. Haven't you done that? I know I have. I know I've been so short-sighted in my understanding of what it means to be spiritual. You will remember that in the previous passage, Paul warned the Galatians about conceit and envy. This is the danger of spiritual success. You see, the flesh is always beckoning for attention and glory for itself, and we've served it for so long that we naturally feed it. And when we come to the place where we stop feeding it, we recognize it for what it is. You see, the flesh beckons for this glory for itself, and as a result, we can begin to believe that we're special, and we do not need God to produce spirituality in and through our lives. Now, we wouldn't say that, but we would live like that. In fact, we have. So the Apostle Paul, in this crescendo chapter, gives us a fourfold description of what the spiritual man looks like. Today, we will only consider verse 1 and the first of these four characteristics of the spiritual man. The first characteristic of the spiritual man is he mends the broken. Paul writes, "Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted." The picture of the broken here is of one who is trying to get away from sin, but unsuccessfully. Paul writes, if someone is caught in a sin, the picture that Paul is painting here is of one who is too slow for sin. The sin is faster, and the one caught is being dragged down from behind. This one who is caught by sin is broken, bloody, and suffering greatly by the destructive nature of sin. You know, it's our tendency to say he's getting what he deserved. He shouldn't have gotten so close to sin. Well, we've all done that. And if we lack compassion, we lack the heart of God. Now, the word the Apostle Paul uses here to describe the actions of the spiritual man is quite instructive. Paul uses the word restore. This Greek word means to reset very carefully, as a doctor would reset a compound broken bone. This word is also used of a fisherman who carefully mends a torn fishing net. Note how the apostle describes how the restoration should take place. Motivated by the Spirit, he says, "Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit." It's motivated by the Spirit. He also says we should do it gently. He says, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. This word gently is careful. It's a careful term. It's a delicate term, given attention to detail. He says, do it watchfully. He says, but watch yourselves. It's interesting, he doesn't say watch the enemy. He says watch yourself. And what he's getting at is our flesh, those evil desires that cloak themselves in spirituality. And then finally, he describes the restoration as being humble, lest you also be tempted. You see, the spiritual man is led by the Spirit to have the heart of God toward others. The spiritual man is gentle, he's delicate with the hurting. The spiritual man is watchful for the enemy to trip him up, yet his greatest enemy is within him, his flesh. Finally, the spiritual man is humble. He does not think more of himself when God incredibly uses him in the life of the broken, especially when people are lauding him. He must be careful to deflect such praise. You see, the flesh doesn't do that. The flesh never does the flesh deflect praise. Watchman Nee once said, and I recommend his book, The Spiritual Man. He once said, attempting to follow God without denying the self is the root of all failures. So true, isn't it? It is obvious that God defines spirituality much different than most men would, given that his first description of the spiritual man in Galatians 6 is that of a compassionate, humble lover of people in their brokenness. Finally, this description of the spiritual man is a product of the amount of time he spends with the one who loved us and gave himself for us while we were still at our worst. My friends, I trust this this podcast is helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. If I can be of any help to you, please shoot me an email at beyoungministry@gmail.com. Hey, have a great day.